There is a distinct power that lives inside a woman who knows her worth in God. She doesn't move out of desperation. She doesn't beg for tables to sit at because she understands she was born to build them. She doesn't chase after people, after titles, after validation, because she walks in divine affirmation. When the world demands that she run after what's slipping away, she stands still and lets God usher what is meant to be. She is not passive. She is powerful in her restraint. When God's woman enters a room, she doesn't need to shout to be seen. Her silence speaks. Her walk testifies. Her presence shifts the atmosphere, not because of status or applause, because she carries something sacred. The anointing doesn't make noise, it leaves residue. Let them wonder why she's not chasing. Speculate why she doesn't move like the rest. She's too focused on rising. While others chase approval, she is being elevated, not because she forced the door open, but because the door was already hers. It just needed her readiness to match her calling. She knows that chasing drains. Rising empowers. Chasing puts man on the throne, but rising keeps God in his rightful place. She's not rising because it's trendy. She's rising because it's time. She's rising because her wilderness is over. She's rising because her prayers weren't in vain. Daughter, you've waited well. Don't confuse her silence for weakness. Don't mistake her stillness for stagnation. God has been molding her in secret, pouring into her behind the curtain. And now, she's walking into her appointed season. Her steps are not random. They're righteous. Her life is not reactive. It's prophetic. She doesn't need to compete because she already carries something nobody else can replicate. She doesn't need to run after what walked away because what's gone was never rooted. Her rise is not to be flashy, it's to fulfill. And when she rises, chains break. When she rises, generations shift. When she rises, the enemy gets nervous because a woman in her purpose is a weapon God will use. There is a powerful distinction in a woman who walks with God and truly knows her worth. She carries herself differently, not with arrogance, but with sacred assurance. Her confidence isn't built on applause, likes, or validation from the world. It is rooted in the quiet conversation she's had with God in the deep places of her soul. It comes from every moment she knelt in surrender, every tear she cried in the dark, and every time she got up when life tried to take her down. She is not waiting for someone to crown her. She already knows she is chosen. God's woman doesn't measure her value based on temporary moments, broken relationships, or fleeting seasons. She's been through storms that tried to tell her she wasn't enough. She's encountered voices that tried to diminish her strength, but she didn't let those voices become her narrative. She let the voice of God drown them out. She learned that her worth is not up for negotiation. It was spoken over her before she ever arrived in this world. Before she was formed in her mother's womb, she was known, seen, and purposed. She doesn't need to compete. She doesn't need to compare. The world may try to pit women against each other, making them feel like they're always behind, always less, always lacking. But she rises above that noise. She celebrates others because she's not threatened by their shine. She understands that another woman's blessing is not her loss. It's proof that God is still moving. Her spirit is free from envy because she knows what's for her will find her. She doesn't run after what isn't hers. She trusts in divine timing, in divine placement, in divine alignment. There was a time when she might have doubted herself. There was a time when she questioned her beauty, her voice, her purpose. God has done a deep work in her. He has healed places she thought would always be broken. He has restored dignity that others tried to take. He has clothed her in strength and dignity. And now she laughs without fear of the future, not because life is easy, but because she knows who holds it. She has learned to walk away from tables where her worth is not recognized. She no longer begs for crumbs of attention or pleads for the love of those who can't see her value. She has been filled by God, and when He fills a woman, she stops running on empty. She walks full. She walks whole. She walks lit from within, and when she walks into a room, she doesn't need to be the loudest. She just needs to be present because her presence carries divine weight. She knows that her worth is not in her looks, her status, her relationship, or her productivity. Her worth is not defined by whether she's married or single, has children or doesn't, runs a business or works quietly behind the scenes. God's woman knows that her value was sealed long before the world ever had a say. And because of that truth, she shows up with integrity, with grace, and with unwavering conviction. She no longer wastes her energy trying to convince people of her value. She doesn't shrink to fit into places that require her to dim her light. She doesn't settle for relationships that cost her peace or steal her identity. She knows now that she is the daughter of the Most High. She walks like royalty because she is, not with pomp, but with purpose, not with ego, but with authority. She doesn't need to perform, she only needs to be. God's woman has boundaries now. She understands that loving people doesn't mean losing herself. She can be kind without being used. She can be compassionate without compromising. She can be present without being passive. And she no longer apologizes for needing space to grow, to heal, to hear from God. She's not afraid of solitude because she has found strength in it. She's learned that alone doesn't mean abandoned. It means available. Available to heaven's instruction, heaven's downloads, heaven's timing. She knows her worth, so she's not desperate. She's not chasing after what doesn't see her. She's not trying to be seen by those who are blind to her calling. She's not trying to fix what God has already released. Instead, she's aligned with her purpose, aligned with peace, aligned with divine flow. And in that alignment, she finds favor, not because she earned it, because she trusted for it. There's a light in her eyes now, a calm in her spirit, a resilience in her walk. She's not as easily shaken anymore. Her roots go deep. She's grounded in the truth of who she is, not who people said she was, not who pain tried to shape her into, not who her past once dictated, but who God says she is, fearfully and wonderfully made, chosen, equipped, and unstoppable. Not just over others, over herself. She doesn't tear herself down with self-doubt or negative thoughts. She affirms what God has spoken. She reminds herself daily that she is enough, and when doubt tries to creep in, she goes back to the secret place where God always reminds her, you are mine, you are beloved, you are called. Knowing her worth has changed everything. It's changed how she loves. It's changed how she dreams. It's changed how she walks through closed doors and disappointment. She doesn't crumble anymore. She recalibrates. She doesn't chase. She ascends. She doesn't fear being misunderstood because she knows that her life is being interpreted by heaven. She's not perfect, but she is positioned. She's not flawless, but she is favored. She doesn't have it all figured out, but she is deeply rooted in the one who does. And that, more than anything, is her source of worth, not what she does, but who she belongs to. So when you see her walking in quiet confidence, don't mistake it for pride. That is the walk of a woman who has wrestled with doubt, shame, and heartbreak and came out whole. That is the walk of a woman who knows she is worthy, not because of anything she's earned, but because of who her God is. That is the walk of a woman who knows that heaven moves when she prays, that her voice carries weight, and that her life has eternal meaning. There is a language that doesn't require words, a language so potent, so powerful that it unsettles the enemy and confuses the crowd. Language is silence. In a world that screams for attention, where noise is equated with influence, and shouting is mistaken for power, there is a woman who stands in silence, and she is not weak. She is dangerous. You see, silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of self-control. It is not weakness, it is wisdom. God's woman has learned that she doesn't need to echo the chaos around her. She doesn't need to argue to prove her point or fight battles that God has already declared won. Her silence is not her defeat. It is her strategy. There were seasons when she responded to everything, every insult, every betrayal, every slight, every disappointment. She used to explain, defend, prove, justify. But now she's learned the power of being unbothered. She's learned the strength in being still. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is say nothing at all. She has found peace in the stillness. She has discovered that not every battle is hers to fight. Some are gods. Some were never even worthy of her voice. She's realized that when she speaks from pain, she bleeds on people who didn't cut her. But when she waits on God, when she holds her tongue, when she trusts his timing, he speaks on her behalf far better than she ever could. Silence doesn't mean she doesn't feel. It doesn't mean she isn't hurt. It doesn't mean she lacks the words. But it does mean she has discernment. It means she chooses her battles wisely. She doesn't fight in the flesh anymore. She fights in the spirit. She lets her prayers speak louder than her pride. She lets her worship drown out the warfare. She doesn't announce every move because her steps are ordered, not performed. You want to know why the enemy fears her silence? Because it means she's listening. Listening to God, listening for direction. Listening for the still, small voice that parts seas and raises the dead. And when a woman listens to God, she becomes unstoppable. Her silence means she's aligning with heaven. She's not reacting, she's receiving. She's not lashing out, she's loading up. Because when she does speak, mountains move. Chains break, atmospheres shift. This is a woman who no longer entertains foolishness. She has cried enough tear to know that weeping may endure for a night. Joy always comes in the morning. She doesn't panic when people walk away. She doesn't chase what's leaving. She doesn't mourn what God has removed. She stands silent and steady, trusting that what's meant for her cannot be stolen and what was never hers can't be held onto. She doesn't seek revenge. She doesn't clap back. She lets God vindicate because she knows that elevation requires separation, and sometimes silence is the bridge between the two. While others are shouting to be noticed, she is growing in secret. While others are performing for approval, she is preparing for a purpose. God is doing something in her silence that noise could never accomplish. There's something sacred about the woman who has suffered silently and still survived. She didn't broadcast her battles. She didn't scream her story. Care enough, she let God do the writing. And now she walks with a quiet fire, an invisible oil, a grace that cannot be explained. She's not looking for the spotlight. She is the light. People underestimate her because she doesn't speak often, but they forget. Still waters run deep. Her silence has depth. Care enough. Her stillness has weight. When she walks into a room, you feel it. She doesn't have to say a word. Her presence announces her. Her posture declares her position. Her peace is her power. There were times when she would crumble under pressure. Times when she reacted in anger, lashed out in fear, or spoke too. But maturity has taught her restraint. Growth has taught her how to sit in silence and let God move. She doesn't fear being misunderstood anymore. She knows that the one who sees her in secret will reward her openly. And when he does, it will be undeniable. There's a strength in this kind of silence, the kind that comes from being broken and built back up by God himself. The kind of silence that comes from facing betrayal without bitterness, from standing in the fire and not losing her praise. Care enough, from walking through the valley and never losing her vision. She doesn't need to roar to be respected. Her scars are her sermon. Her stillness is her sermon. She's not avoiding confrontation. She's inviting transformation. She's not weak. She's watchful, watching for God's move, watching for what's next. She knows the difference between noise and movement, between chaos and calling. And so she waits. She waits in silence, not because she lacks a plan, because she has a promise. When God's woman walks in silence, it is not a retreat. It is a rise. She is not shrinking. She is ascending. She is not hiding. She is being hidden by God for a greater release. There are some seasons when he hides her, quiets her, separates her, not to punish, but to prepare. And when she emerges, she is not the same. She is stronger, wiser, sharper, unshakable. Her silence is not a pause. It is power under pressure. It is her response to noise with anointing. It is her answer to charge with calm. The world wants her to be loud and angry and care enough, and the enemy wants her to be reactive and reckless. But God has trained her hands for war and her spirit for worship. And she has learned to fight in stillness, to war in worship, to roar in silence. So don't mistake her quietness for weakness. Don't assume her stillness means she's stuck. She is watching. She is waiting. And when the trumpet sounds, when the spirit stirs, when the time is right, she will move. And when she moves, care enough, it won't be to chase, it will be to rise. She doesn't need the crowd, she needs the cloud. She doesn't follow culture, she follows calling. She doesn't shout to be heard, she trusts God to reveal her when the moment is right. Because her silence is not empty, it is holy. It is the space where heaven meets her heart and prepares her to walk into her next with divine clarity. So let them wonder, let them talk, let them misread her silence. She's not here to explain, she's here to elevate. And when she finally speaks, when she finally acts, there will be no doubt who sent her. Will she force her way into rooms man built? Or will she wait for the doors only God can open? One is temporary and fragile, built on status and performance. The other is eternal and unshakable. Care enough, built on faith and favor. When a woman truly understands that elevation is God's doing, not man's, her entire posture changes. Care enough. She doesn't hustle for visibility. She doesn't beg to be noticed. She doesn't compromise to be accepted. She knows she doesn't have to chase platforms when she's already been positioned by the hand of Most High. What man builds can fall. What man approves can be revoked. But what God ordains is sealed. There was a time when she thought she had to climb ladders, when she believed that if she wasn't loud, flashy, connected, or well-known, she would be overlooked. She used to stretch herself then, doing of everything to prove she was worthy of the next level, but the striving wore her down. The applause faded. The recognition was shallow. Care enough. And through that season, God taught her something sacred. Daughter, you don't have to perform when you've been chosen. God's kind of elevation doesn't come from people's approval. It comes from purpose. And care enough, it doesn't come when you're perfect. It comes when you're ready. And readiness isn't measured by resumes or titles. It's measured by surrender. The question is never, are you talented enough? The question is, are you yielded enough? Care enough? Are you willing to go the path you imagined and follow the one he authored? See, elevation is not a climb. It's a calling. Care enough, not achievement. It's an assignment. Man promotes based on popularity. God promotes based on preparation. And sometimes God enough will hide them before he elevates her. He'll develop her in dark rooms, behind closed doors, in seasons where no one sees her grind, her growth. And care enough, or her grace, not because he's punishing her, but because what's being built in her is too sacred to be rushed. Care enough, there's something about the hidden seasons that prepare a woman for true elevation. The seasons where she is broken and built, where she loses people but finds herself, where her heart is crushed but her character is strengthened. God doesn't elevate the surface. Care enough, he elevates the substance, and the substance is developed in obscurity. Don't be discouraged when people overlook you enough. Don't be shaken when opportunities pass by. God's elevation isn't based on who likes you or who claps for you. His favor finds you regardless of public opinion. People can forget you, but heaven will never lose your name. God doesn't need man's permission to promote you. When it's your time, no devil in hell can block it. And when God opens a door, care enough, you won't have to manipulate, push, pull, or strive to keep it open. His doors come with peace. His doors come with provision. His doors won't cost your identity, your sleep, or your soul. What man gives can create pressure, but what God gives brings rest. It aligns, it flows, it fits. There are people who rise fast, but they fall faster, because man's elevation is often based on trends. What's in today is gone tomorrow. When God elevates, it's not a trend. It's timeless. It's not fragile. It's fortified. It lasts because it's birthed in prayer, watered in tears, care enough, and rooted in obedience. That's why she no longer tries to force her way. She's not knocking on every door anymore. She's not chasing connections or crafting versions of herself to be more marketable. She's walking in alignment. She's building with integrity. She's focused on becoming, not impressing. And when you focus on becoming the woman God designed, elevation comes to meet you. Care enough. There's a confidence that comes from knowing God is your promoter. A calm that comes from knowing you don't have to hustle your way into blessings. Enough. You only need to walk with him. Stay faith planted. Stay pure. Because when the time is right, he will lift you higher than any hand ever could. Care enough. Scripture doesn't say, man shall exalt you in due time. It says, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God. Care enough. And he will exalt you in due time. That means it's not your job to elevate yourself. It's your job to stay under his hand. And the woman who remains under God's hand may be hidden for a season. When she's revealed, she comes forth refined, ready and resilient. And care enough, she's not intimidated by someone else's blessing because she knows her lane is custom built. She doesn't covet another woman's spotlight because she trusts her timing. What God has for her is so specific, so tailor-made. And care enough, it couldn't fit anybody else even if they tried it on. So let the world keep running. Let others strive and chase. She's not moved by temporary applause. She's anchored in eternal purpose. She's not looking to be next. She's looking to be right. Right with God. Right in her heart. Right in her motives. Care enough. Because she knows when things are right on the inside, God will handle the outside. Her elevation isn't a surprise. It's a result. The result of prayer behind closed doors. The result of fasting when no one else knew. The result of walking away from opportunities that looked good but weren't God. The result of saying yes to obscurity and no to shortcuts. She didn't skip the process. She surrendered to it. And now when light hits her, when the doors swing wide, care enough, when the favor floods her life, it will be evident that this wasn't man's doing. This isn't networking. This wasn't strategy. This was grace. Care enough. And grace is the only explanation for a woman who made it through everything meant to bury her and came out standing taller. So hear me, woman of destiny, care enough. Don't rush. Don't chase. Don't fear the quiet seasons. God is not slow. He's intentional. He's building you for where he's taking you. And care enough. And when he lifts you up, it won't just be a promotion. It will be a declaration. A declaration that this woman is not here by accident. She's here on assignment. She's not rising to be seen. She's rising to be used. There is a certain kind of woman you don't see coming. Care enough. She doesn't enter with a parade. She doesn't announce herself. She doesn't claim her for attention. But when she arrives, everything shifts. Her spirit carries weight. Her steps are deliberate. Her presence makes people turn and look. Not because she's loud, but because she's been molded in the hidden places. You may not know her story, but you'll feel her strength. That strength didn't come from ease, applause, or comfort. It was for get in silence and wait, care enough, in wilderness seasons that nobody else witnessed. While others were posting, performing, and parading, she was in the pressing place. Care enough, while others were seeking platforms, she was being processed. God had her tucked away. Not to punish her, but to prepare her. There are places in God that cannot be reached by visibility, only by vulnerability. And this woman, and care enough, the one who walks with quiet fire and calm authority, she knows that truth intimately. She didn't arrive here by chance. She was formed here. And care enough, not in the spotlight, in the shadows, not in the applause, but in the etching, not in front of people, but on her knees before God. She was molded in the furnace of unseen obedience, in the hidden hours where no one clapped, no one thanked her, no one noticed. But God did. While others looked for outward results, she was chasing inward refinement. She wanted more than promotion. She wanted purity. She didn't just want to be used by God. She wanted to be known by him. You see, there is a sacred work that only happens in private. And care enough. The kind of molding doesn't show up on resumes. That doesn't trend. That doesn't get instant rewards. It's the kind of work that builds depth, that builds character, that builds a woman who won't crumble when life gets hard or people walk away. She has been carved in the dark. Care enough. And what's carved in the dark can withstand the light. Don't be fooled. She's had moments where she questioned everything. Where she wondered if she'd been forgotten. Where she cried out, God, why is this taking so long? And care enough. Why does it seem like everyone else is being elevated but me? And heaven whispered back, because what I'm doing in you can't be rushed. I'm not building a moment. I'm building a move, and movements take time. She had to let go of her own timeline. She had to stop comparing her journey to others. She had to learn to be content in the secret place, that sacred space where God strips away the unnecessary. It cuts out the insecurities and pours in fresh oil. That's where she learned to worship when nothing was working. Care enough. That's where she learned to pray without needing an audience. That she became anchored. The molding hurt. Make no mistake, and care enough. It hurt to be misunderstood. It hurt to be hidden when she felt ready. It hurt to be passed over. But what she didn't realize then was that God was shielding her while shaping her. He was protecting her from platforms wasn't yet prepared to carry. Care enough. He was keeping her from doors that looked good but would drain her dry. He was making her durable for destiny. Now, when you see her walking in wisdom enough, speaking with clarity, moving with boldness, you need to know that didn't happen overnight. That was earned in silence. That was built in the breaking. Care enough. She's not polished because she's perfect. She's polished because she's been processed. And the woman who's been through the process walks differently. Care enough. She carries things others don't. She sees things others miss. She doesn't flinch when storms hit, because she's been weathered. Care enough. She doesn't panic in the unknown because she's been trained in the unseen. The woman molded in hidden places has roots, not just branches. Care enough. Her faith is not surface level. It goes deep into the soil of every test she endured, every tear she sowed, every time she obeyed without reward. And now, she's not just gifted, she's grounded. She's not just a nub, she's aligned. She doesn't seek to be impressive. She seeks to be impactful. She's not chasing fame, she's chasing fruit. She no longer cares about being seen by many. She's already been seen by God. Care enough. And once you've been validated in the throne room, you no longer need to beg for attention in the marketplace. Care enough. That molding in the hidden place has done something sacred in her. It's taught her the rhythm of God's voice. Care enough. It's trained her ears to beyond the noise. It's given her discernment that can't be taught in classrooms or learned from influencers. Enough. She sees through facades. She moves with caution. She doesn't entertain what looks good but isn't God ordained. Care enough. She's not bitter about the seasons that broke her. She's grateful because those seasons taught her how to build without applause. How to hope when all signs said quit. How to carry vision when nothing around her matched the promise. She learned how to war and worship and care enough, how to rest in warfare, how to be still and know that He is God, even when nothing made sense. You want to know why she's different, why she doesn't respond like others do, why she walks with an atmosphere of peace even in chaos. It's because she's been in the cave with God. She's been refined in fire. She's been tested in silence. She's been humbled in the crushing. And now she's not just showing up. She's emerging. She's stepping out of hiding, not because she wants to be seen, but because the season of silence is over. Care enough. God didn't keep her hidden forever, only long enough to heal her, sharpen her, and pour His glory into every crack the world tried to break. So when you see her now, don't envy her elevation. Respect her roots. Don't desire her platform if you weren't there for the pruning. Because her power isn't in her presence, it's in her process. She's not great because she's gifted. She's great because she let God mold her when no one else was watching. And that woman is unstoppable. Not because she was perfect, because she was patient. She let God finish what He started in her. And now she walks in a strength that no one gave her and no one can take away. When a woman rises, she does not rise alone. Her elevation is not just about her. Her breakthrough is not just a personal victory. It's a generational shift. Her obedience becomes a door. Her healing becomes a pattern breaker. Care enough. Her rise echoes through bloodlines, setting the stage for deliverance that stretches far beyond her lifetime. You see, people often look at a woman's success and think, she made it. But they don't understand what made her. They don't see the prayers she cried through clenched fists, the late nights of questioning, the silent battles she never spoke of. They don't see the decisions she made to stand when it would have been easier to settle. Her rise is not about status. It's about significance. And her significance is deeply rooted in the generations coming behind her. She doesn't just carry dreams. She carries destiny. And when she rises and care enough, she lifts up she rewrites the story. She refuses to pass down what tried to destroy her. The trauma stops with her. The silence stops with her. The self-hate, the poverty, the confusion, the instability, the compromise, it stops with her. She is the woman who said, care enough, no more. Every step she takes forward becomes a blueprint for someone else. Every lie she rejects gives truth to the next girl in line. Care enough. Every fear she overcomes becomes for someone still watching from the shadows. She rises, but her shadow casts light. She moves, and her movement creates room for others to breathe deeper, dream bigger, and believe again. She understands that her healing isn't selfish. It's sacred, because a healed woman raises whole children. A focused woman raises bold daughters. A resilient woman doesn't just bounce back. She builds forward. She doesn't repeat what broke her. She reclaims. She repurposes it. She lets God use her wounds as wisdom for others. When she rises, Karen, her mother sees hope again. Her daughters find identity. Her sisters find strength. And even those not connected by blood feel the tremor of her transformation. Because her rise is not small. It is divine. It is disruptive. It doesn't just impact her. It rearranges history. But let's not pretend her rise was easy. No, this kind of rise costs something. It costs pride. It costs popularity. It costs comfort. She had to fight against what was spoken over her, care enough, what was modeled in front of her, what was missing within her. She had to unlearn patterns that were praised and embrace paths that were lonely. She had to disappoint people who expected her to stay the same. She had to forgive those who would never apologize. And still, she rose. She didn't have a guidebook. She didn't have a map. She had faith, and that was enough, because faith gave her vision, and vision gave her direction. And care enough, and direction gave her peace, and peace gave her momentum, and momentum gave her legacy. She knew she couldn't afford to quit, Karen, not because she had all the answers, but because she had too much purpose to waste. There were eyes watching her, young hearts following her example. And care enough, there were prayers from ancestors hovering over her path. She was not just living for today, she was lifting tomorrow. Even when she wanted to shrink back, care enough to disappear, to hide under the weight of responsibility, something deep inside her said, keep going. That voice wasn't a go. It wasn't ambition. It was destiny. It was God. It was the sound of every generation crying out for a woman to finally say, I won't break this time, care enough. I'll break through. She started building where nothing was built before. She started loving herself in ways no one taught her. She started raising her voice, setting boundaries, confronting lies, walking in her authority, not for applause, but for alignment. She was tired of carrying burdens that didn't belong to her. Tired of performing for people who didn't value her. Tired of waiting for permission to be who she already was. She rose quietly at first, then boldly, then unashamed. She rose from the trauma, from the silence, from the ashes of what was meant to bury her. She rose with tears in her eyes and fire in her bones. She rose carrying every lesson, every scar, every moment where she could have given up, but didn't now. Now she stands as a pillar, as a mirror, as a movement. Not perfect, but proven. Not flawless, care enough, but favored, not without fear, but full of faith. Her rise was not just a comeback. It was a man from heaven. Get up, daughter. There's more now. And others look at her and say, if she could do it, maybe I can too. That's the impact. Not just rising, but raising others as she goes. She doesn't hoard the light. She reflects it. She doesn't gatekeep the wisdom. She pours it out. She doesn't pretend to be superhuman. She simply walks in supernatural strength. Her story will outlive her. Her legacy will outlast her. Yes, to God created ripple effects that reach places she'll never see. Because generational impact is not about fame. It's about faithfulness. It's about showing up, standing tall, staying rooted even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. When she chose healing over hiding, care enough. She broke curses. When she chose truth over tradition, she shifted the culture. When she chose purpose over popularity, she laid the foundation for a new kind of future. And because of her, generations will walk freer, love deeper, and dream higher. She may not see the fullness of it in her lifetime. She may not get the thank or the tributes. But she'll rest knowing she did the work. Care enough. She'll walk knowing she ran her race. She'll rise knowing that heaven smiles on the woman who said, I won't let it end with me. It changes with me.